Someone once told me time is a flat circle. Everything we've ever done or will do, we're gonna do over and over and over again. Again. And again. And again. Forever.
Loki Season 1 concluded this past week and managed to accomplish something from a narrative standpoint that Marvel had seemed reluctant to do, and that's provide their audience with a satisfying conclusion. Both WandaVision and Falcon and the Winter Soldier ended with such lackluster continuations of the status quo that it largely made the events within their respective stories irrelevant. Wanda levels up her int and goes from really powerful to really, really powerful, and Sam becomes Captain America. A title, had he accepted at the start of his story, would have negated half of the entire plot. This is by design, of course, as Marvel wanted to ensure any of its MCU fans who didn't happen to watch the TV shows wouldn't miss a beat in their larger cinematic narratives. And while I understand that reasoning, it runs contrary to how every other Marvel story to date incrementally moved the larger, overarching story forward. A lack of progress is a lack of momentum, which is why the ending of Loki is so important. It not only upends the show's status quo, as in things will not return to normal, it changes all status quos simultaneously. Good on Marvel for crafting not only a decent conclusion to a series for once, but introducing a very unique villain in a very clever way. This leads me to another point. Looking back at the majority of the MCU, you'll find that Marvel has a real problem with properly defining their bad guys. Aside from Loki and Thanos, how many antagonists across the 24 movies can you clearly remember, along with a clear definition of their motivations and purpose? My guess is not many. That's really the problem with Marvel's disposable cavalcade of villainy. They appear once, and upon defeat, are never heard from again. From a storytelling standpoint, they're less of a moral opposition to our heroes, and are instead just a physical obstacle to overcome, which is exactly what makes them so forgettable. They don't challenge or propel their prospective protagonists ahead, and instead only serve to further the plot before ultimately being cast aside in the third act. It makes sense then that the most memorable antagonists in the MCU are the recurring ones, long-term threats that both challenge and change their protagonists over time. Enter Jonathan Majors as He Who Remains, an amalgam of several comic book characters, best explained by Geek Culture Explained, link below. But this instance is a variant of the major villain Kang. I thought Majors gave a great performance here, and while these scenes are significantly reminiscent of the architect scene from The Matrix, I found Majors' portrayal for this variant of Kang to be far more engaging and captivating than that of the monotone Colonel Sanders. It's an interesting thought experiment to consider how a person living outside of time would act, given that Kang, in this case, is basically a god, possessing both omniscience, knowing everything that will ever happen, and omnipotence, being infinitely powerful and essentially immortal. Kang's manic behavior seemed, in my opinion, to stem from a place of loneliness. When first introduced in the elevator scene, Kang appeared genuinely thrilled to see other people, suggesting he's been in isolation at the end of time for aeons untold. He's excited about what is to come, knowing there's a good chance he'll finally be put out of his misery. There's also the Nietzschean theme of eternal recurrence at play here, suggesting that Kang and his variants have disrupted time itself to the point where no matter what the actions of the protagonist, he will always end up at the same place at the end of the cycle before it all begins anew. These are some lofty philosophical concepts to introduce into a Marvel show, and really elevates it above anything we've seen so far from the MCU. The next time we see Kang, he's bound to be far less of a basket case than how he's presented here at the tail end of the cycle. In fact, we're bound to be presented with an entirely different, far more aggressive version of the character in his next appearance. And I'm really looking forward to how Majors portrays the conqueror aspect of this character, considering his stellar incarnation of He Who Remains. It seems that, at long last, Marvel is taking some much-needed risks with their storytelling, and in return are presenting their audience with stories that are finally worth paying attention to. The new big bad of the MCU is finally here, where instead of an alien, android, or wizard, Kang is just a man. A man who ascended the path of godhood to transcend his humanity and ultimately was left to his lonesome until the end of time. It's a cautionary tale revolving around the Faustian bargains for knowledge and power. Well done, Marvel. Now please continue this course to further disrupt your status quo. The stories that follow will be all the more better for it. If you've made it this far into my inane ramblings, then I'd like to thank you for watching. And if you like this video, then please like and subscribe to feed it to the almighty algorithm. Thanks again for watching.
Catch you in the next one.
And remember,
In eternity, where there is no time, nothing can grow, nothing can become, nothing changes. So death created time to grow the things that it would kill. And you are reborn, but into the same life that you've always been born into. And that is the terrible and secret fate of all life. You're trapped. Like a nightmare you keep waking up into.